It's my pleasure today to introduce Debra. Debra Kunz is an award-winning executive coach and business performance consultant and the founder of the Center for Deliberate Growth. She specializes in practical leadership and performance strategies that unlock prosperous results at an intentional pace. A dynamic speaker, Debra's interactive programs motivate and energize audiences to think differently about how they can impact their results and understand the measurable value of strategic leadership and performance solutions. Leveraging her 25 years plus of experience, Debra's results focus on creating a cohesive leadership team, evaluating effective and efficient productivity, developing middle managers, evolving new leaders, maximizing teamwork, generating revenue and profitability breakthroughs, and proactively moving companies forward. Debra received a 2019 Stevie Award for Company of the Year Business Services at the Women in Business Gala in November. She's also been honored with the Excellence in Practice Award for Coaching and Mentoring from the Association for Talent Development and named Kansas Women Business Advocate of the Year by the Kansas Department of Commerce and an inspirational influencer by the International Association of Women. She holds an MBA plus a bachelor's in marketing and 4 coaching certifications, including the unique Coaching with ROI. In addition to asking just the right questions and getting to the heart of the matter, Debra is a passionate believer that when good people come together, teamwork can solve many challenges and create multiple opportunities. So Debra, welcome, and I'll let you take it from here.
Good morning, everybody. Some of you you're on mute as instructed, so I will assume you said good morning already.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can everyone see my slides?
Good morning.
Yes.
Okay, so now there's going to be lots of questions and interaction, so you're going to get practiced at muting and unmuting yourself. But given the group, and now that I know who's here, one of the best things I can do for you this morning, I think, is facilitate questions and answers that you bring today. I have lots to teach. I have a wealth of content even in this program and lots of other topics, but I really want you to get things that you need most today, because we already know that being a leader is complicated. It's just complicated by its very nature. So whether you own the company, which most of you do own a company, or you are a high-level leader at an organization, you have big responsibilities. Whether you have direct reports or not, you may have big responsibilities. It's complicated. We have simultaneous business challenges. I mean, I don't know about you, but things that happen in my business don't happen in neat little linear paths. Right? It doesn't happen where you get one thing at a time and you get to solve the whole thing before the next thing happens. It just doesn't work that way. Even now, but it didn't work that way. It didn't work that way before the situation we're in now. We all have competing priorities. If you have employees, or if you have matrix teams you're leading, if you have vendors you're working with, if you have contractors who assist you with various aspects of your business, there's always the human factor, and there's always people stuff that happen in the middle of that. Good things can happen and challenging things can happen when it comes to people. Time is never enough to do all of the things we want, and endless decisions. So today we're talking about leading through change. Leading through change. In particular, I'm going to translate those decisions for today's topic into the top 3 priorities for leading through this unpredictable time. So one of the things I wanted to ask, and some of you voiced a little bit, but I really want to dig into change in particular, since there's so much change happening. What are the issues that you're facing at the moment? What is it that you most would like to get from today relative to how do I lead changes for myself? How do I lead changes for my clients? How do I lead? We're all facing changes with family and personal things because we're all working in a different way than we were before. What brought you here today for this? What would you like to learn about change and leading through uncertainty? You can unmute yourself and chime in, or Trish is keeping an eye on the chat for me. I don't even know where I see chat. Here we go. Okay, now that was funny. He clapped into the chat. That's good. That's very creative. Clap, clap, how to paste myself in the team. Okay. Paste yourself. Okay, so if you see me shuffling around, it's because I'm taking some notes. Okay. Pace yourself. Okay. What else? Now you're a chatty bunch. I heard you talking before we started. So
How to be relevant, Debra.
how to be relevant. Okay. What else? Scaling, I see in the chat. Ooh, employees to accept and embrace. Okay. People are typing instead of talking. Do you see that, Trish?
Yes, how to leverage activity for best predicted return.
Leverage activity.
And managing personnel stress.
Managing.
Personal, not personnel, personal.
Probably both, but yes, personal, definitely. Personal stress. Okay, so pace yourself and your team. How to be relevant. Scaling in uncertain times. Having employees. What did that one say? How to get employees? Getting employees. Getting employees to accept and embrace change.
Which another question here is coworkers that are in denial, which kind of, and to keep yourself and others motivated, those kind of all play together.
Coworkers in denial. Get others to accept. Is that what you said? I'm making notes here.
Yes, it said also retaining confidence in our customers.
Ooh. Now we're cooking. The coffee kicked in.
And
Okay.
then cost neutral ideas to reward essential employees.
That one. Cost
So
neutral.
like, I would guess low budget, right? Low budget ideas.
Oh, cost neutral, as in
Right.
those two words go hello. Maybe
Yeah.
I didn't copy. Okay. Cost neutral ideas. Okay. Fascinating. Okay. Any others? Okay. Those are good. And I'm glad you spoke up. Sometimes I forget there's a little delay. I think there's probably a delay in the audio because when I've had other meetings, I make a comment. I think they're going to laugh. They don't laugh. Then they laugh. I'm like, okay, so there's an audio delay. So remind me of that. Feel free to remind me of that anytime through as we're going through here. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about managing through change and uncertainty. That even though it can feel like you have no control, particularly in any kind of change. What I'm going to teach today is about how to manage change and lead through change. Now, granted, right now we have unprecedented types of change, but what I'm teaching is the same. What I'm teaching is the same. So these are things you can use. You use them now, but you can use them as your business evolves, as your companies evolve, whether you're a corporate leader, an entrepreneur, a business owner. All of these things are still the same because here's what I know. Here's what I absolutely know. You are still in charge of how you lead. You're still in charge of how you lead. And some days are better than others, even for me. I mean, I have my own stress, right? Personal and business stress happening. But at the end of the day, you're still in charge of how you lead. So, my mission today is why not make it a little easier? Why not make it a little easier? Because here's the other thing I know. Till the end of time, leaders fuel performance. Leaders. fuel performance. And I'm already going to give you a tip about some of the things you just mentioned you want to gain from this. The first leader we fuel is ourselves. The first one we fuel is ourselves, because leading ourselves is always necessary in order to lead other people, whether you are leading a team of employees, a project team, or even your customers or clients. You always are leading yourself first, and you are leading other people. So if you skip the part about where you're focused on how am I leading myself, how am I leading my job, how am I being accountable, how are my responsibilities showing up, how am I doing follow through? If you skip that part, and a lot of time, I'm going to talk about this, in times of intense change, leaders can get, their stress can get in their way, and they skip over the part about leading themselves, and they hop into leading other people. And it actually is not as effective. It's necessary, but it's not as effective unless you start with yourself. So here's your first tip. Be sure you're digging into the recognition of how can you lead easier for yourself, and then also, how can you lead easier for your teams? How can you lead easier for your teams and continue to create results for the business? Continue to create results for the business. So a little bit about me. Thank you for the introduction, Laura. A little bit more about how I came to be the founder of the Center for Deliberate Growth, and how I put together the material for today and what I teach in my executive coaching and business performance business here. I'll give you the short version. It's not going to sound like it, because the first thing I'm going to tell you is back in 1992, I got a degree in marketing from Iowa State, and I worked in small family-owned companies at the beginning of my career. And then in 1995, I moved to the big city down here in Kansas City and worked for an $80 million commodities firm where I established a corporate brand, and they sold the company in 12 months. So I'll shorten the version of the story of Kansas City. My first 10 years of my career, my 27-year career, the first 10 years in Kansas City were 10 different mergers. 10 different buyouts or joint ventures or mergers happened in 10 years. So I've been through change. I've led through change. I've thrived through change. I've waded through the chaos and the crazy. I've done it. And I did a little math one time, and I figured out that it was about 3 months from when we were whoever we were last time to when we're going to become whoever we're going to become next. At one point, there were 3 brand changes in 3 years. A couple of you are in marketing. That'll make your head spin. So 3 brand changes in 3 years. At that point, our customers didn't even know who we were. They were like, who are you people, and do you even know? The other piece of what happened for me during that time, because I was retained during that entire change craziness, what happened for me is I went from being involved in marketing communications and external growth focus, which I was still doing, and got pulled into doing more internal growth. So more internal growth and personal and professional development of the people. So I was mentoring and coaching execs, I was coaching leaders, I was teaching project managers how to be more effective in leading cross-functional things. I was doing organizational assessments. I was a change manager for a while. I did business analysis and risk analysis, and I combined all of those pieces together already with my natural propensity to ask questions, which Laura can attest to because I've worked with her a few times already. And how do you use all of that and package it together to become more effective as a leader? So during all of that change and mergers and turning your life and professional and personal life upside down, I actually decided I wanted something more entrepreneurial. And that's when I went to the financial industry and spent 6 years in the financial industry as an advisor and worked with people strategically on managing their money, and learned that as I got asked questions from leaders and business owners about how do I lead change? How do I create change for myself? How do I help my people adapt and grow and evolve? How do I grow the enterprise? How do I deal with conflict? How do I convene a team? Those are things that I actually liked doing better. And so I pivoted my business and I founded the Center for Deliberate Growth in 2010, and I'm completely exited the financial industry. So now I get to do all the pieces that I like. So I get to do one-on-one coaching. I lead strategy retreats and board meetings. I do leadership development in groups. So that's how what I'm teaching has evolved. And of course, I love continuing education and average about 35 hours a year doing continuing ed and coaching and facilitation and speaking. So I'm going to give you the 3 priorities, and I'll pause for questions. If you have a question and you want to just chime in and ask it, then you can unmute yourself and do that. If you'd like to put it in the chat, then Trish is going to keep an eye on that for me. Mine keeps closing. So thank you for the teamwork, Trish. I appreciate it. So here's the first one. Here's the first one. Here's a bit of a reality check, perhaps. Everybody sounds pretty upbeat this morning, so I'm excited about that. Here's the first priority is to do a check-in. Remember, the leader leads themselves as well as leading their teams and their clients. What is your state of mind? Anytime that we are leading through change, anytime that things are upside down, your state of mind about whether you are excited about the change, interested about the change, anxious about the change, fearful of the change, worried it will or won't work, that affects how you make decisions, and it affects how you interact personally and professionally. So be sure you know how your state of mind is on a daily basis. And when things are changing this quickly right now, it may be more than once a day. I share, some of you weren't in the meeting yet, but one of the things that I did that best helped my state of mind is I stopped watching the news in the morning, because it allowed me to establish my own intention and my own state of mind for my day without interference from now what happened. Because for me, that's how I was receiving. Holy cow, now what? And so when I quit doing that and I allowed myself to have today could be good. Everything is different. Not as different for me. I'm already running a virtual business. I already work out of my house. The office and headquarters of the Center for Deliberate Growth, me and the cat, are here. But lots of things are different for clients that I have. And so part of me being present for my clients is to know my own state of mind so I can help them with theirs. Now, this graphic says you love or fear it. You don't actually have to love change to be effective at it. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't like change. That check box with the love, that is not going to ever be me. I don't like it. I won't like it. I'm glad I'm here. I'm here to learn, but I'm never going to love change. You know what? It's okay. You actually don't have to love it to be okay with it, to settle in, to have more of a neutral state of mind about it. That's okay too. The bigger issue, if you think of it as a scale, fear is here, love is here. Love is great if you love change. If you're anywhere from the middle kind of toward love on a regular basis, then you're already ahead. And don't beat yourself up if you're more in the middle toward the fear side, okay? Don't beat yourself up if that's more like you. We're all human. This is not judgment. No one's being graded. Nobody knows where you're thinking you are. Just notice, where are you usually? And is that serving you? Maybe not serving you? Because if it's neutral towards fear, it's not. It's not serving you. And I'm going to talk more about why not. And if you want to know more about why not, and I haven't answered it, then please speak up, okay? Please speak up. Because here's the thing you can do on a regular basis to do a little check-in, to just do a little check-in. Because with all the things that are happening, particularly since it's not just our professional life that's upside down, our personal lives are upside down too. I mean, families are in one house all day and they're not accustomed to that. In my case, I take care of 2 parent households. So I'm responsible for 3 households. 2 of them are parent households, 2 different households. One is in a different state. And that is different for me right now. The things that I can do and how I need to go about them. That's different for me. So be sure to have a little check-in with yourself. Have a little check-in. The other thing I'm seeing with my clients in particular is they're going so fast. They're going so fast, they don't even notice what their state of mind is. They're not noticing their state of mind because they're not pausing enough to notice. Now, since they're coaching with me, it gives them an established accountability because I will pause them. I will pause them and say, oh, okay, how about if we slow down and just breathe a minute? And I'm not a yoga instructor, but I've learned a lot about breathing. Slow down and check in and stop rushing and really ask yourself, what is your state of mind right now? Are you fearful? And you may not use the word fearful, but fearful has lots of synonyms. Anxious, upset, worried, stressed, stuck, frozen. All of those kinds of things are related to a fear base. Or are you feeling a little more, okay, we're moving forward. There's hope for forward. I am forward. I'm crazy busy right now. Or I'm recalibrating how to be busier and do productive things. That's more of a forward check-in. And one way to help you distinguish and stay in forward is really determine what is it that's in your control and what is not. Okay, so let's talk about change in general. When you are merging with another business, that, for example, that's a change that would be your idea, right? Either you bought the business, you sold the business, maybe you're acquiring a new product, maybe you're launching a new version, maybe you're expanding your niche of customers. Those are all changes that you are making. And it was your idea. What we're responding to right now was not our idea. This was not our idea to have a pandemic. This is not our idea for everyone to stay home. The fact is, it's our reality though. And so we have a choice between, we recognize that the fact that it's happening is not within our control. The fact that we can be home and be safe and be smart and do all the things they're telling us to do, that is within our control. And if you distinguish those pieces, it's essential for keeping your head on straight, for having your mindset straight, and to continue to know how to lead forward. Lead forward. So let's take an example. I don't have any pandemic cases to share with you. Gee, big shocker, my first pandemic, right? But I do have plenty of other cases of clients to talk about in changes. And one of them is a service business. A 15-year track record, very successful, very happy about their business and very passionate about their craft. But their revenue had plateaued and they couldn't figure out what the heck is up with that. And the owner's complication, because it had plateaued for several years. Now, if you own a company and you've noticed the financial measure has plateaued, particularly incoming money, but you've done nothing, are you possibly in the fear zone or you think you're in the forward zone? Feel free to type in chat. Kind of over here in the fear thing, pretty obvious. Because the truth was, he wanted things to be different, but he wasn't doing anything about it. So he was much more in the fear zone of, I want stuff to be different, but I'm afraid to change anything. I want something to be different, but I'm afraid to change anything. And that could be something that you're going through now. It could be. So for him, when we started working together, part of what we did at the beginning for the owners is really dig into what is your state of mind and how is it affecting what you do next. Because what he learned was his state of mind affects his team way more than he realizes. Way more than he realizes. So some of you are saying he's forward. Well, no, that's what he needed to be. And the fact that he engaged with me was an indication that he was ready to start doing that. But let me tell you, the brakes were put on many times doing our work because he was just apprehensive that if I change the stuff, I don't know what's going to happen. Ah, now there's the biggest issue. If I change things, I don't know what's going to happen. Hence, now we're in the uncertainty piece of the change part. Now we're in the uncertainty piece of the change part. So he wasn't ready. He got ready. He did get ready, but he wasn't ready at the beginning. A different leader I was coaching, a corporate leader, she's a woman who has 300 people who report up through her in a global conglomerate kind of organization. So she has a director title, and so that sounds like she's middle, and she is middle if you look at the giant size of the business that she's in. But she has 300 people who report up through her. So that gives you an idea of the size of the enterprise that she works with. And when we started working I worked with her one-on-one. When she first came to me, she had 30 years of experience, a very successful track record as an executive leader, and was completely stuck. She was completely stuck. Admittedly, president of the club of stuck is what she used to tell me. I am stuck. I admit it. I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what to change, and I'm afraid to try. Oh my. What if that leader takes, I don't know what to change, and I'm afraid to try, and walks around with that inside the company? What happens? What happens to the team? What happens to the energy? What happens to the ideas? Now you're forcing your people to overcome your own mindset. Now you're forcing your people to overcome your fearful mindset. To her credit, we worked together one-on-one. She moved into a lot of complicated situations with a much different mindset. And to her own self-assessment is we boosted her confidence by 60%. So we changed her mindset dramatically during our work. And I'm going to show how it impacted the rest of her team as we go through that. So I'll show you the rest of this case.
Debra,
questions?
I was just going to comment. I feel like that can feed into our clients and customers as well, not just our team, but our clients.
Absolutely, because especially if you do a lot of business on the phone, and you're like in the chamber, if your members are calling the chamber office and your staff is awesome, you guys are all awesome. But if they called and they're like, and your response is, "Oh, the world is ending. I don't want to be here. What do you want?" Who wants to talk to that? I mean, no one wants to talk to that when we're not in this situation, right? So,
Right.
as much as things have changed, there are a lot of things that are exactly the same, and that is one of them. That is
Amy made a good point. She said changes can become opportunities.
It can become opportunities. It can definitely become opportunities. And the way to best make it an opportunity is to address it with a mindset where you know that it is one, and you know how to make it one, which is a great bridge into what we're going to talk about next. Does anyone have questions or comments before I go on to the next one? Oh, no, we better move on. Okay, here's number 2. And these actually could be separated, but I put them together because they impact each other. Resistance and resilience when you're going through change. Resistance and resilience when you're going through change, they impact each other. Good or bad, they do. And they are most often misunderstood because in a busy leader's brain, they get smooshed all together. And you think you're making decisions about one, and you're not. You're actually not. So when you're leading through change, if your mindset, these are all hooked together. If the mindset of the leader is, holy cow, this is hard, I don't want to, you're not likely going to be open to addressing resistance that comes from your staff or your clients, which is a good point, because that's conflict and it's icky and painful and we don't like it. If that leader is in that state of mind, you're going to have a problem. Instead, you could choose to receive resistance as information. You could choose to say, interesting feedback I'm getting, that they are stressed about this and that. And I'll give you an example. And if you recognize that the resistance is likely because of they don't feel like they're part of the solution, or they have no control, which would be a pretty common response to the situation we're in right now, not having control. So here we are again. Are you the one who is resisting? Are you the one who is resisting? Now I'm going to explain resilience and then I'm going to give you an example. So stay with me. Okay, so resilience is the flip side. Okay, resilience is adaptability. Resilience is being flexible. Resilience is having inner strength. Resilience is having courage. Resilience is having a fundamental belief in yourself and your teams and your product and how you run the company that this will work. Now, it's not a blind sit in my office and hope things will work for the best. That's not what I'm saying. I'm still saying have a plan, be smart, and then recognize that there may be mistakes. Stuff may not work the way you thought it would. That's actually when resilience is best tested. When things are going well, no one thinks they need resilience because everything is terrific. It's when stuff goes awry, when things go backwards, you miss a deadline, your vendor didn't deliver, something happens with your employee and they're out, an emergency happens with one of your employees and they're out of the office. Now your resilience is tested. Now your courage and inner strength and do you really believe you have what you need in place gets tested. Nothing tests a business owner than a business problem. And nothing tests whether your processes are working, whether you have the right people, than if you have a problem. Because right now, executives everywhere and business owners everywhere are finding out, I don't have the right people. Or I have exactly the right people. Or we may need to shuffle some process. Or we have some serious cross-training that we have missed because we're too dependent on one person or another. That is being tested right now. And the more resilience you have, the more this is how you respond. Wow. Okay. That's information I wasn't expecting. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? So here's an example. The gentleman with the 15-year successful business, the one with the fearful mindset. Okay. I was coaching him and his leadership team, and then I brought in the rest of the enterprise. So I was coaching all of the employees in the company at the same time. Why would I do that? Because this is how you build resilience inside the company, and this is how you create growth. And someone asked about how to recover. This is how you recover. You don't do it by yourself. You can't do it by yourself. And if you try to do it by yourself, then you're missing opportunities. I'm going to talk more about the team in a minute. By the way, if you want these slides, I can send them to you, and I have a way for you to ask for them. That's really quick. But the resilience in that service firm, came from involving everyone. And you know what happened? Engagement of the employees went up by 26%. 26%. It went up by 26%. Their efficiency went up by 33%. In fact, they found an hour in a process they used 10 times a week that they could cut out. 10 times a week, they found an hour they could cut. If you use $200 an hour as a rough estimate of an employee salary with benefits, it's $108,000 value to that coaching that group. That is about building resilience. So let's talk about the corporate leader example. The corporate leader with 300 people who report through her. The one who raised her confidence and worked on her state of mind and built her faith in herself by 60%. That is a piece of resilience. Your own confidence in yourself is about your own resilience. What happened with her group? Her direct reports started coming up to her and saying, what's going on with you? In a good way. The intention was to be a good way, right? What's going on with you? I've noticed you're more decisive, which if you're a leader, might be a little bit shocking at first, right? It might be a little bit shocking at first to hear, well, wasn't I decisive last week? I mean, what happened that I'm now decisive? But her mindset had shifted. Her resilience was built, and they were noticing. And then she started to notice in the staff meetings how much more decisive her staff were. She could sit back a little more. She allowed them to run solutions. She stepped back and she was able to see them be more confident. That is about building resilience in solutions. That's about building resilience in solutions. So anyone have a question or a comment about this one before I go on? And if you want the slides from today, Trish is going to type them in the chat. The slides for today, you can get the slides from today if you want them from leadingthroughchangetips.com, leadingthroughchangetips with an S on the end.com. And I always offer my quick reference guide to every audience, the 7 crucial decisions that unlock your leadership power and fuel performance. You can get that at leadeasier.com, leadeasier.com. So Trish is putting those links up in the chat, so it's easy to click, clickety click. Who has questions at this point or comments about what you're learning? I'm reading the list of things that you talked about at the beginning.
Amy made another great point and just talks about how we have to sell what our idea internally before we sell it externally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And internally could be internal to you, and external could be external to the team, and internal could be internal to the business, and external could be external to the client. So there's 2 ways to look at that for how you build resilience and how you convey that you are continuing to move forward. One of the best ways right now is to continue to maintain relationships as you have had them. So some of you were asking about scaling in uncertain times and leveraging activities. Make sure your clients know that you're still here. Even if you're not sure how things are going to evolve, that's okay. They probably don't either. But make sure your clients know that you're here. Be in contact with them. Be in contact with them.
Debra, there is a question. In your experience, what is the role of personal vulnerability in leading through change? Can there be too much or too little?
Excellent question. Excellent question. So some of vulnerability can also be called being authentic. Being authentic. Now, this is not about becoming some sort of robot. That would be I have completely eliminated being human or vulnerable at all. That's crazy. That is not going to help you, and it definitely will not help your team or your clients. So this is not about being so stoic or so much of a cheerleader that I've got this and I can go through it and nothing ever bothers me. That no one will believe you anyway. But it sends the message that it's not okay to be human, and that's not true. I mean, your staff has kids at home. They have pets at home. They may have parents at home. They may have multiple generations now who have decided to shelter in one place. Can you imagine? That might make stress like, woohoo, over the top. That's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to deal with. So as the leader, being vulnerable enough, and I think it's more of being a reality check and being a realist and being human to say, my life is a little nuts at the moment at home. How are you? But it's not spending an hour. It's not spending an hour complaining and whining and taking it all down into the woe is me. When will this ever end? This is awful. And it's okay to have those moments. It's okay to have those moments. Notice I said moments. wallowing as the leader and showing wallowing, that is not going to help you. That is not going to help you. Telling your team that you had a moment where you did wallow and you let yourself wallow and you just let it all out and you did whatever it was that you need to do. You screamed, you punched a punching bag, you cried, whatever it is. Sharing that you needed to do that and that it was this long and then turn it. And then I felt better because I learned how to address the emotion that I was having. And if you're having emotion, I encourage you to do that too. There are lots of counselors in the world who are still in business. There's lots of companies who have employee benefits that cover counselors. If you're one of those people, this is a good time to do that. Now, for me, I serve that purpose a lot with my clients, my one-on-one clients, and even with my groups, because I'm coaching the person. I may be coaching the leader, and the priority is their professional performance, but I'm also coaching a person. So I also hear things about what's happening in your personal life and how can you manage your personal stress and how can you manage your professional stress and how can you continue for yourself to move forward. I don't see anything else in chat. Okay, let's do the third one. Because a lot of the people here, which I love, this may be obvious to some of you. It's not obvious to everyone. And even when it's obvious, okay, hear me. Even when it's obvious, it is overlooked. It is not intentional. It is not malicious. It doesn't make you a bad person. It means you have a blind spot because you are rushing and you're hurrying. There's too much to do. There's too much to take time to ask. You don't want to spend all the time to explain the X, Y, Z things that changed in the last 2 weeks. That's the blind spot. That's the blind spot. And by the way, this could happen in your personal life too. Asking family involving kids involving things and the solution of whatever it is, also a blind spot. And it could show up in the same way as you can see on this slide. I just want to get things done. There's too much on my list. There's too much on my plate. I don't want to take time to ask. I don't want to explain all the stuff. Just do it. Careful. I'm also hearing from executives that they are sounding like a parent when they're talking to their employees because they're mixing up their home and their work life. So I can give you some tips about how to work remotely. I actually have another class on quickly engaging remote employees and leading virtual teams. I'd be glad to talk about teaching that for your companies if you'd like. But that is about setting boundaries between when am I at work and when am I not. And I will give you one of my personal tips, speaking of vulnerability. Wear shoes. If I'm at home, I don't have shoes on. If I'm at home, to be at home, I'm not wearing shoes. I'm wearing slippers. So if I am at home at work, I have shoes on. There's a little flip in my head that says it's time to work. Find your thing. May not be that, it might be that. I also have designated clothes I wear when I work at home. So they are work clothes. I am not wearing Saturday, I'm at home clothes to work, even though I am at home. I have designated clothes I use as work clothes. Now I'm not wearing 3-piece suits at home. Don't do that. Or do that if that's your thing. But find a way to designate that and help your team with that too. Because the mistake you can make in the rush through change is you skip asking the team. And the team has solutions that you haven't thought about. So let's take our business owner. Let's take our business owner. So I coached him about his mindset in particular and his state of mind and dealing with change and accepting change and building resilience in how the solution could work and building resilience in what happens if something goes awry and knowing that he could handle and lead through that problem. Then we involved the team in the process. Now we brought the team in, and do you know what he said to me? Well, I know what they're going to say. That was it. The conversation was supposed to be ended by then. Oh, I know what they're going to say. Okay. Well, but they would just tell me if they had something to tell me. They would just tell me. This is an incredibly common blind spot, incredibly common. The best leaders I have coached have this blind spot. Again, it doesn't make you a bad person. It's a blind spot. We all have them. We're all human. It's okay. So we invited the teams. I coached the enterprise, as I said, the company, the whole company. And the rule was he couldn't speak. The owner, I mean. The owner couldn't speak. His job was to listen. My job was to ask questions and facilitate discussion. And the team's job was to speak up. But he couldn't answer questions. He couldn't ask them. He could just listen. He was shocked. He was shocked at how many solutions they developed for improving the company, navigating change, the things that he wanted. Know what turned out? He wants to retire in 10 years. He wants to retire in 10 years. Do you know how many ideas they came up with how to grow the business, create opportunities for themselves, and create an opportunity for him to retire and have a new owner, right? So the business was going to continue. He cried. It was like an episode of Undercover Boss where everybody cries in the business. This is why I love what I do, because that breakthrough right there changed how that company functions. The leader was now embracing change. The team was jumping up and down excited that they were being listened to, and they were less assumptions about what they did and didn't know or couldn't know. And they were now involved in how can the business evolve. And that works on every company size. So I know a lot of you are small businesses. That works with every company size. People want to be included in the solution, even if they tell you they don't, they do. That's part of your job, to know how to lead through the change and include them. And by the way, that business's revenue went up by 54% in the first year. The average monthly revenue went up by 54% in the first year of our work. The second year, the revenue was 26% higher than the prior year. This is the power of how, when you know how to lead through change and you build resilience in the company, how you can move yourself forward. So let's talk about the corporate leader. The woman who has 300 people who report up through her, who boosted her confidence by 60%, noticed how it impacts her interaction with her own peers and her direct reports, saw her staff meetings become more confident, saw her staff becoming more decisive. She also expanded her span of control, which means she got involved in a lot more strategic meetings at levels that were 2 levels above her. So her boss's boss's boss. And in one decision, saved the business $750,000. $750,000 through coaching, through all of these pieces of how you build your leadership skills and unlock your power as a really effective leader, particularly when you are trying to create change in the business. And in this case, in this stuff we're doing now, this is about how do I respond to the changes that are happening in a way that's productive. So we have a few minutes. Who has questions at this point? I'm looking at your list again. There's one about coworkers. Let's talk about that a second. So if you are the one who is leading forward, meaning you're in the mindset of resilience, you're in the mindset of let's get this figured out, you're in the mindset of moving ahead, you're in the mindset of accepting, and you have a coworker who is the opposite, which probably means they're in resistance, right? They're resisting the change. I can't believe we have to do all this stuff. What are you thinking? If that's your coworker, I'm assuming that's the question. So type in chat if I'm missing the point on the question. How do you get them to accept it? Okay. Change the question. It's not about getting them, because that implies that you can flip a switch in them and suddenly it's all going to be better. There's something about that person that has been triggered by this situation, and it's most likely not a work thing. It's most likely something in their outside of their life. So the best thing you can do is connect with them, ask them how they're doing. The question about vulnerability earlier, check in. If it's someone that you could do a video meeting with, do that. That person is best served by someone asking how they are. Now, they may put on their brave face and say, everything's fine. You don't have to believe that. But if you take the time to check in and if you can find out a little bit about their family, they might just need to talk a couple minutes. Don't ruminate for an hour on this. That's not what I'm saying. They might just need someone to hear them. They might just need someone to hear them. And if you're the leader, you are in the best position to do that. If it's a peer, then there's no authority complication about you being the boss if this person is a peer to you. Same is true. Instead of, get them to change sounds a little judgy. No judgment to you, but it sounds a little judgy. So instead of that, switch your mindset into, how could I help them? Maybe all I need to do is listen. And I'm guessing that's the case. If you want some more information, be sure to get the quick reference guide at leadeasier.com. I always offer opportunities to talk with me. So if you'd like to talk with me, one of the best ways to let me know that is go to talkwithdebrakunz.com, talkwithdebrakunz.com, DEBRAKUNZ.com, and fill out that. It's just a contact form that asks for name and email and what would you like to talk about. And again, if you'd like today's slides as an outline, leadingthroughchangetips.com, leadingthroughchangetips.com. We are almost out of time. I'd be glad to take a question, and I'd be glad to stay on a minute if the Blue Spring staff has time for that, or we can adjourn. I'm going to leave that up to you.
Well, thank you very much, Deborah. I learned a lot, and you're right. This time is extremely filled with all kinds of change, and all of us are going through it. So thank you for all of your insight. And like I said, I learned something. So I want to remind the group really quickly that we do have power hours every Thursday at 11 a.m. Just register so that we can get you the code. We're learning how to keep these events from being Zoom bombed.
Yeah.
Next week, the power hour is on the 16th, and it's from the library. And there are wonderful resources available at the library that are free if you have your library card. So as Deborah said, she's able to stay on a little bit. Otherwise, thank you all for coming, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. It was great to meet everyone.